I mean, borrowing from athletics, was there ever, you know, during your time in British rowing where you would borrow ideas or, you know, training patterns from other sports?
No, not so much. I mean, we were pretty set in our training program, you know, that has delivered 10 Olympic gold medals or 12, so we stick with it, you know, which I saw is in my point is something that is sometimes underestimated, the simplicity, you know, the simplicity of the training program, and not to have to go off every year to very different ways. A small adjustment, something tried out, but the frame is there, and it has been successful for a very, very long time, because I think there is a lovely simplicity behind the sport, you know.
Yeah. You know, one of the things that struck me talking about technique was that the British team seemed to, the technique in some of the early World Cups. I mean, maybe the guys are tired, you know, is a relatively lower level, and then they go to Silveretta and have the training camp in Avis, and the technical proficiency comes up. I wonder if that's something that you saw in the boats.
Yes, well, I mean, we used to talk a little bit about it in the beginning. You know, we coach mainly from the bike, so you have natural distance. And so, I mean, this is not everyone's cup of tea, but the idea is that you can accelerate your coaching input throughout the year. So you're not hammering, you can get more and more intense. We do a bit more, then we go on training camps, then you have the time. I do think we could do more with that. I think that's definitely an area where the rowers and the coaches should pay a little bit more attention to the technical proficiency. You know, I think, if I'm honest, I still think, you know, we have super committed athletes there, but you know, if you would have an efficiency rating, I think the engine is not bringing it all onto speed. And that could be fixed with rowing. So I think this year now we try to put a lot more effort into an early intervention to see if we can't accelerate that already, you know, or could accelerate it already.
Which sort of crews or countries do you like to watch when you go to World Cups or World Championships? I mean, who really stands out for you?
Yeah, the Germans and the 8. We're talking about it. Yeah, no. Welcome to all my German friends, but no, it is fantastic. You know, and I think it was interesting to listen to Martin Schmidt a little bit there. You know,
Richard Schmidt.
Richard Schmidt, yeah. Martin is a bit, yeah. Sorry, but it was interesting to listen to this, how he described it, how he sings. But I do agree. I looked a lot, you know, because they're very precise and very sharp, you know, and but not rough, not too hard, you know. I think that works really well. And I used to, you know, when we talked about leg drive, this is one of my quirks there. So every time we start coaching and people talk to me, we talk about leg drive, I say, okay, go onto the website, Seville 2002, and you watch the Italian lightweight double, yeah, in the final, then you know what leg drive is. Because those guys, it's absolute like a piston. The body is completely level, you know, it moves very nice pull, but because of the legs going so strong and so clear, the boat just runs, it's straight out, they can hold their cadence, they never look that they get overloaded, but at the same time they don't look that they're rushing, even though the rate is quite high. All shows you that they're in tune with this. But leg drive, that's the race to watch, you know. It's a bit old now, but it still shows you what's possible there and how well that is executed, you know.
I've made a note of that, actually. Do you remember the names of the athletes in that double? I couldn't remember them.
Catenari is at least one of them. Huh?
Oh yeah.
That one I can't remember now. Yeah. No, old hand in the business. Old hand. But in a really good time. I mean, Seville gave us quite some quick times. That was a time when the British pair broke the then now pedestrian world best time. Of 6:14 point something. So yes, we know now that it wasn't that fast. But yeah, it was a great regatta, and I think that I always use this as one of the examples to look at leg drive, because I find it is so brutal and so well executed. You know.
talking of those record times, if you look at the times, I have heard it said that perhaps one of the relatively slowest times of the international boat classes is the men's 4, and that I wonder why you think that is. Is the standard in that event lower?
Yeah, no, look, and that's maybe it's a great example when people say, oh yeah, look, well, that's easy, that's what we can do. And I remember it was I think once before the German women's quad, I think, held the world record for a very long time. Yeah. I think, and there's another interesting before I come to this. What is really interesting to me is the Australians dominated more or less the event until the last race. Nevertheless, if you look how high they're rated, and you compare to their times, you can see the danger that rate is not the answer. So what is the answer is distance per stroke. That's for me a key learning, because if you look at the rates that they are rating and the rest of the field, and we are following a little bit. I mean, we rode it was what 37 as an average, or even a bit higher. Now maybe probably 38. And the time just average, So you can see already the answer can't be the rate higher. The answer must be distance per stroke. And the 537 was rowed at an average stroke at 35.5. Really? So yes. So and there are way. I mean, we're nowhere near this time in the moment. I think we were saying you have to row. We were happy to go first under 550, and then we were saying, okay, we should go under 540 if you want to be competitive. We haven't achieved that. I think the best was a 42, for us not even, but I think the best time now was a 42 from a wingwing boat. So you can see we're still quite a bit off. Why? Look, it's always difficult to say the standard. Look, it is what it is. You can clearly see it, because in the same regatta, if you want to win the 8, you have to row 97% plus 98%. Yeah. So you can clearly see that there is something missing in that 4. What's going on? But I think what it also shows you is, come the right crew, it's not a foregone conclusion to win the gold medal there. So people must be keeping that in mind. That you can say that, but if the crew comes, then you have no chance. So you have to do the work. You have to row fast enough to win. And if you then win anyway, that's a bonus. But I think in our preparation, we always make sure that we not lose sight of what's really going on, what's really important, and not getting sidetracked by a boat class that happened to be a little bit easier, Yeah. You see it that way. And I think people also learn with each time. Maybe more people concentrating on the big boats. I mean, what is happening to Canada and the US, So but look, we're saying this now. It comes at 4, rows 5:38, and we're all looking because we get beaten by 5 seconds. So we have to be careful. Just because people haven't done the job or couldn't do it or whatever it is, it will be done. So I'm holding my breath, but it will be an interesting event. It is quite open now. It's not clear. It's no one is there that clearly will win the Olympics in the Cox's 4, I would say. I think there are a lot of people that hope for it, wish for it, want it. While I would say in the 8, it's a bit tougher. I think the Germans have laid great groundwork, have also shown resilience again, That's also not to underestimate. This is, if you always lead on the front, maybe that happened to the Australians. I don't know what happened there, but, the Germans have been doing this under different and very difficult circumstances, and they have only been beaten when they had been beaten. Never ever have they given up, and I think they've shown great resilience. So I would say they are the clear favourites for the 8.
That's really interesting. You talked about the Australians there. I mean, what did you make of the way that they paddle? With Ian Wright has this quite deliberate pause at the finish, and then he wants to come up and just time perfectly the front end. And what's your view on that?
Yeah, I don't like the pause at the back. You want to time the front. Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. But you know what? I hesitate to to argue other people's approach in that way. You know, he has his reasons. It has, you know, the point is every time he wins a race, it has worked for him. Who am I to say he shouldn't do it? I'm just thinking from the logic of me, I would like to have the handle recycled at the time when the boat is at a high speed and you have the ability to do it without harming the boat at all, you know, and then because as long as you don't move the seat, you hardly move any weight, so you can do a lot. And if you sit in front of yourself, you stretch out your arms, yeah, and even you walk over your body a little bit, you have covered an enormous amount of way with hardly anything done. And then you lift your knees and you're already there. So timing the front, in my opinion, would just aid that. If you have to do all of it, I think you just might tie yourself up a little bit.
Yeah.
The question with those things is, anyway, you have to check it in the racing, yeah, because then you have to measure and actually look what really happens, you know, because we even, you know, we work on this all the time, and you can see when I show the guys what they're doing in racing or under full power, it's unfortunately not what I want, because otherwise I think they would have been faster already. So I think these things, you know, sometimes you see, best example is Romania. You know, they pedal at stroke at 17 or have been for many years. And, you know, he's very deliberate in pedaling, but then they race at 42 and, you know, has no relation to what you see them paddling around there. I mean, they have their internal logic. But to me, you know, I saw this, but it doesn't tell me anything. When they were racing, they were not racing at 32. They were racing at 42. So there was then no difference to any other crew, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe, however you get people to follow a process, maybe that's the most important thing, to say that you have a bit of a philosophy and a process, you know, that you want to follow, and then you look what the physical requirements are. I'm always saying, you know, when people talk about technique, I'm not quite sure if we understand that correctly. The technique is, you know, you have to follow the physical requirements. Every boat slows down. Every boat accelerates. You cannot row a boat at constant speed. So nobody can overcome that. Everyone puts a blade in and the boat slows down. There's no one in the world that has overcome that. So you have to work within this physical world, and then you have a style of what you think you could make the least damage in one area and make the most out of the other area. And I come back to what I before said, you have the acceleration phase. So how can I make the most out of that? And how can I do the least to the boat when I can't influence it positively, which I can't. This is also a fact, unless we change rowing, you know?
Yeah. One of the things that your athletes did this year was there was a very exciting phase of breaking records for 2K on the Ergo.
Yes.
Were you surprised by the scores that you were seeing and the times coming in?
Yeah, we did a lot of ergo rowing, an enormous amount. You know, I believe that other countries started rowing much earlier. We did not row until the 1st of September. One must not forget that. No one touched a rowing boat before the 1st of September. So we had a lot of time on these ergs. And I think, but that shows you the quality of the guys. Even if they sit in their kitchen and working on this like removed Olympics, they still have this ability to motivate themselves, to try that out, to look at it. And I can only say, I mean, great respect, absolutely great respect to these guys to do this under those circumstances. That's why you kind of know you have the right guys, you know, because I think that's another level of training that you have to do in isolation. But I think if you do so much ergo, there was a good chance, and people want to try something out, you know. And we always knew. I mean, you know, most of he has been around for a while, and you know, it was definitely possible for him to move on and go. I think Tom George, yeah, he's a good guy, but he really diligently prepared himself for that, you know, and worked on these things, and you know, was quite realistic how he did things, and I think he got a very nice payback for that, you know. He just had to bring all of it into the water, you know.
Is there anybody that stands out? There's a lot of new athletes that have come into the British squad, particularly in the last couple of years. New names that sometimes people are less familiar with. You mentioned Tom George as one. Is there anyone else who stands out in terms of qualities that you'd think of?
Yeah, a bit, you know, it's still fresh. I'm a bit hesitant to make big short shout-outs. But no, I think look, when new people come in, I think there are no doubt new people, you know, the new stars, and that's maybe these opportunities. There are no stars yet, and I think the understanding of when you potentially can be really good and you are really good, they're two different things. I think the most dangerous word in sport is the word talent. We should avoid it at all costs. Do not talk about talents. Do not say to any rower, he is a talent. That destroys it.
Yeah, yeah.
That things there is some built in. You know, we have people that had to work for this. If you think of Tom James, you know, what a tough time he had physically. You know, he wasn't the best, but he had many other aspects to bring things together. He had to overcome illnesses, and you know, I followed his way for quite a while, and he came out with the gold medal because he was diligent and he could understand it. And I think with the young ones we have now, we have some tall guys, we have some big guys, and of course you've got people that can pull already ergs, but that's only number one. To learn to train intelligently, smartly, every single day. That's what they have to learn. That's what they can't do yet, some of them, and that's what makes the difference, you know. And that's what we have to teach as coaches, to saying training, but also train every day. First we say finish a camp, then make a great camp, but don't make a great day and then don't finish the camp. Yeah, always our first thing. First you finish the work, then you can think about topping it out, you know.
Yeah.
And I think some people, it's more difficult for some to understand that. They look around, they compare scores, and they get themselves into the rat race, you know, and then they lose sight of who they are. They just try to beat the next guy, and of course, eventually, it will go wrong, you know. So I would say that's why I think for British rowing there are great rowers. There are really fantastic guys that come around, and I'm just hoping. You know, that they get led well, and for some it's the first Olympics, you know, and you know, they have to manage all of those expectations. Of course, for us, we always talked about the British, and you tell them that the four hasn't lost since this and this and that, but to them it's the first. They're sitting in a boat. There's Olympics. First of all, get yourself into the final, then go and win it. You know, so you have to hold that balance. There has been since 2016 a very big change of names. I think Mo is now the last surviving player, you know. There's one left, and the rest is all coming over time. It's newer and has to find their own way.
Yeah. Christian, we've been nearly an hour now. Just, I don't know where the time's gone, but just maybe a couple of questions. What are you looking forward to in terms of your new job in German rowing?
I look forward to a challenge to help my own country, you know, to excel, to see, you know, to learn and see what they have in mind, how they see themselves, and then maybe to explain to them how I see Germany as a rowing nation, what is possible, what should be possible. You know, there are, as we know, there's women, men, scull and sweep. You know, how is it going there? Why are things going really well? Why are things going not so well? Is there something we can do? Talk realistically about expectations, what people do. So I think it's an absolute exciting time to bring people together and give them maybe a new outlook from someone who hasn't been in the system for a long time and looks and sees it from the outside for what it is, you know. Not saying that I have all the answers to begin with, but at least I have some answers or some ideas, and hopefully people are open enough and interested enough to engage and see what we can do. I think, you know, there is potential everywhere.
Yeah, that's fantastic, Christian. Ian Weir just has asked a question. I think in a couple of weeks' time, Jurgen's going to be sitting where you are now in Crossy's corner, and you know, all of some questions. Maybe you can think of a good question or questions to ask Jurgen.
I'm sure your audience will have a lot of questions to answer. I spent 12 years with him. I asked all my questions. I think no. I just want to say it was a highlight for me, and I said it in a little tweet. It's very difficult to say. Maybe it gives me the chance. It was a highlight for me to work with someone like Jurgen for that time. It is something special. and to see it firsthand, and even seeing in the years that we did it together, how he operates and how he operates with athletes. And of course, he is a very, very tough man. Absolutely, absolutely. But I think especially how he worked with athletes left deep impressions on the guys, you know. So even some who didn't make it, he was always honest. He was definitely not someone who would tell you something that's not true. And I think, yeah, it was a real journey, and I wouldn't have want to miss it. I'm really was excited to work with one of the greats in our sport, and I hope people will see that and see it for what it is. Not only where he came from, but also especially now he did it in the new system, so you could see he was very adaptable, and he was he sees it for what it is, and I think he could operate in it, and he understands rowing very, very well, you know.
Wow.
So yeah, I hope he is, you know, he's feeling good now, enjoying himself, and I wonder what the next challenge is for him. He looked still very energetic and fresh, so I'm waiting for that, you know.
Christian, you've been marvelous. You've taken every question that I've thrown at you, and you've dealt out some fantastic answers. I can't thank you enough. We're coming to the end of the live broadcast now, so we'll end things from there. But just to say thanks everybody for tuning in. Quite a lot of viewers on this live broadcast, and thank you, Christian, for speaking so openly and honestly.
Thank you very much.